going to tell you a story about mess around and find out. Okay. So, recently in my relationship, in my personal life, I felt like I wasn't living up to my potential. And so, what I started doing, and I really felt like I wasn't living into the man that I could be. And the woman that I'm with, she's just absolutely killing it, firing on all cylinders. And I really wanted to be the best version of myself, for her. And so what I started doing is I started asking her for a lot of feedback. And because I believe that it's really hard to change if you're not aware of the things that you could be doing better. The self-awareness is really the first step and to what I see is developing the self or growing. And so I started reaching out to her. I was like, hey, what can I be doing better in this area or over here? Do you have any feedback? And just all the time asking for feedback. What she started doing was at first she happily obliged. She was like, yeah, sure, here's what you can do over here. Here's a scale of 1 to 10 on this. This is my favorite thing about this. Here is what I really think I really didn't like this, things like that. And the more feedback that she gave me, the more effort that I put in, and the more I tried to change, and the more I tried to change, I wanted to see if the effort that I was putting in was actually doing something. And so essentially, the more feedback that she gave me, the harder that I would work. And then I would ask for even more feedback. And then she would have to put in, it's not effort giving feedback, but if you're going to give it in a good way, it takes a little bit of effort. You have to think and give, constructive criticism. And, giving feedback isn't free, and getting it certainly isn't, but giving it is also not free. And so the more that she gave, the more that I worked, the more that I asked for because I wanted to see if it was working, causing her to have to give more feedback yet again. And it just ultimately it turned our relationship into a job, is kind of what it felt like. And so this loop happened, and this loop probably was going on for about a month, a long time of me asking for feedback, putting in the work, then reaching back out, say, hey, is this working? What do you think? And it really turned the relationship from a fun kind of thing that we're doing just because it's natural and it feels good to more of work, more of a job. They're adding a lot of friction into the relationship and just totally killing the fun of it. And all this essentially culminated into basically you can think about it like a stock market crash. So the value of the relationship or the relative ease of it just kept going down and down and down and down until it hit a point where essentially we capitulated. um, One night and this was maybe 2 weeks ago, we were sitting there, and it just wasn't fun anymore. It really felt like to me that things were about to end. The laughing stopped, the joviality stopped, the playfulness kind of went away, and it really just kind of all came to a head. And it really, frankly, I was afraid. I thought it was going to end, and I became very sad. Uh, and there was one night where it all just came to a head, and we had a crucial conversation. And it was basically the conversation like, what the hell's been going on? This isn't fun anymore. I don't want to be here right now. I don't want to be with you. And this was kind of the feeling that was, at least from my perspective, it seemed to go both ways. And it was really a low point in our relationship. Um, and it was pretty spicy. During this crucial conversation, things were said, things were brought up that were true. I was making a lot of mistakes. I was asking for a lot of feedback. I was turning the relationship into a job. And at the other side of the coin is things were brought up in that conversation that I don't know would have ever been brought up if I hadn't been acting like like turning a relationship into a job by consistently and constantly asking for feedback and trying to work, 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 work. That effort highlighted things that I didn't even know that I was doing. and it was very interesting and frankly very valuable, I believe. And it's actually funny. And I'm not going to go into the specifics that were brought up because this is not relevant here. But what's relevant is that it's almost like the mistake that was made, or it's almost like we needed a market crash to then bounce back up, because it feels to me, and you'd have to ask her, but I really believe that things are better now than they've ever been, which is really interesting because it's almost like it took a market crash for us to realize maybe what was going on, or it took the decline of our relationship to really show us what was important. And now it is on an upswing, like there never was. I mean, it's pretty awesome, and it's consistently great, right? And so yeah, just the things are better than they've been. And so the point of all of this is basically, what I learned from all of this is that my personal growth is my responsibility. It is not the responsibility of others, my friends, my intimate partner, my boss, or all of these other people, my parents, my family members. It is not their responsibility to be in charge of, or to be some sort of accountability partner for my personal growth. Like, if they want to sign up for that, that's totally cool. But ultimately, my personal growth is my responsibility. And the level of self-awareness that I have, there are tools that I can use, like journaling, potentially meditating, going on walks and just kind of thinking. Like, these are ways that I can build self-awareness, and also, build that self-acceptance. Like, hey, I do have some of these character flaws. Um, if I'm not living up to my potential, then why is that? And I can ask myself those things. So these are some of the things that I learned from this like month-long kind of journey and market crash in this relationship. And ultimately, what I found out is, and this is kind of funny because it's all over the internet right now, but ultimately you got to frig around and find out. This is the point of this story, is that if you don't make mistakes, I really believe that you're limited. Or when we don't make mistakes, when we don't try, or we don't try to expand beyond our capabilities, we don't really grow that much. And that's the ultimate point of this story. And so I've collected just a few tips from, this this journey, and I'd like to share those with you now. So the tips are: if you're going to make mistakes, or rather, you know, if you want to grow, this is phenomenal, right? If you want to grow, you've got to push beyond your capability set. So basically, if you want to grow, you're gonna literally invite mistakes. You're gonna invite these metaphorical market crashes. And so there are a few things that I found out, and I'd like to share those with you now. So here are some tips on how to make mistakes, but how to make them in a good way. And these mistakes are: number one, the mistakes that we make, or the experiments, or these capability kind of expansions, what have you, they should be really quick to implement. It shouldn't take a month to figure out like what's going on. Like, this was not a great test. If it takes so long, maybe it'll take a month to get out. If it takes you a month to get into a hole, it probably might take you a month to get out of it. So, these some of these mistakes, if you make them quickly, it'll be quick to bounce back, right? Another thing is that it should be easy to test. It should be easy, like the way that you kind of go into it. If I feel like I'm not living up to my potential, then maybe I should easily define like what I believe my potential is, and figure out maybe what's holding me back from that, and then try to design an experiment specifically to test one of these things, or to test one of these feelings. It shouldn't be it shouldn't be so difficult to test that you have to like ask 13 other people, what's going on? Is this working? Right? So a little bit of forethought ahead of time, saying, hey, okay, so what is it that I'm trying to improve on? And how can I measure that? It doesn't have to be with a ruler, right? It can be kind of a gut feeling. How am I going to know what's going on? And if you start with the end in mind, then it'll be a little bit easier to test and figure out. Another thing that's kind of important is that these experiments that we run should be relatively independent. it's not the best to bring other people into these mistakes unless they want to fully work for it and subscribe to it. Because frankly, other people, they've got jobs, they've got hobbies, they've got things, responsibilities that they need to take care of. And if you are sucking other people into your experiments or things that ultimately are going to be for a loss, like a mistake, ultimately will always have a loss because there's capital that you invest, whether that's time, money, energy, some sort of resource, you have to invest in order to make a mistake. And you don't want to bring other people into those losses if they don't want it. So you should really ask other people, or just for me, moving forward, my mistakes are gonna be relatively independent moving forward, so that I can, because I feel like I can afford that loss. Um, and another thing is that they should be cheap. You shouldn't deploy all of your resources into a mistake that you can't back out from. This is something if you get yourself into, one of the beautiful things about this relationship metaphor or story that I told earlier was that it worked because it didn't end. Like if the relationship ended, then the whole mistake, well, it wouldn't have been for nothing because I still would have learned the lesson. Though it's really important for me personally that I make mistakes in a way that I can come back from. So you don't deploy everything, into a mistake, because if you deploy everything and it doesn't work, then you've completely lost everything. And this isn't great. And so yeah, so the moral of the story is sometimes you got to frig around to find out.